Bedtime. Oh, yeah.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here with Matilda and we're going to read one of our favourite stories this evening. And it's called, what's this bit called, Matilda?
The Smartest Giant in Town.
Okay, I hope you enjoy this story. It's all about George, who was a very big, scruffy giant. So George was a giant, the scruffiest giant in town. He always wore the same old pair of brown sandals and the same old patched up gown. I wish I wasn't the scruffiest giant in town, he said sadly. But one day, George noticed a new shop. It was full of smart clothes. So he thought, I'm going to buy myself a nice, smart new shirt, a smart pair of trousers, a nice new smart belt, a smart stripy tie, some smart socks with diamonds up the sides, and a pair of smart shiny shoes. Now I'm going to be the smartest giant in town, he said proudly. George left his old clothes behind in the shop. He was about to go home when he heard a sound. On the pavement stood a giraffe. What's the matter? Asked George. It's my neck, said the giraffe. It's so very long and so very cold. I wish I had a long, warm scarf to keep me warm. Cheer up, said George, and he took off his stripy tie. It didn't match my socks anyway, he said, as he wound it round and round the giraffe's neck. It made a wonderful scarf. Thank you, said the giraffe. As George strode towards home, he sang a song to himself. You going to sing? My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, but lift me up and down. I'm the smartest giant in town. George came to a river, and on a boat stood a goat who was bleating loudly. What's the matter? Asked George. It's my sail, said the goat. It blew away in a storm. I wish I had a strong new sail for my boat. Cheer up, said George, and he took off his new white shirt. It kept coming untucked anyway, he said, as he tied it to the mast of the goat's boat. It made a magnificent sail. Thank you, said the goat. And George strode on, singing to himself. You going to sing? My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. But lift me up and down. I'm the smartest giant in town. Good singing. George came to a tiny ruined house. Beside the house stood a white mouse with lots of baby mice. They were all squeaking. What's the matter? Asked George. It's our house, squealed the mother mouse. It burned down and now we have nowhere to live. I wish we had a nice new house. Cheer up, said George, and he took off one of his shiny new shoes. It was giving me blisters anyway, he said, as the mouse and her baby scrambled inside. The shoe made a perfect home for them. Thank you, they squeaked. George had to hop along the road now, but he didn't mind, and as he hopped, he sung to himself. My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. But lift me up and down. I'm the smartest giant in town. George came to a campsite, and behind a tent stood a fox who was crying. What's the matter? Asked George. It's my sleeping bag, said the fox. I dropped it in a puddle. I wish I had a warm, dry sleeping bag to keep me warm. Cheer up, said George, and he took off one of his socks with diamonds up the sides. It was tickling my toes anyway, he said, as the fox snuggled into it. It made a very fine sleeping bag. Thank you, said the fox. And George hopped on, singing to himself. My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of my socks is a bed for a fox. But look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town.
Because it's only a practice.
Yes, it's real. George came to a big squelchy bog, and beside the bog stood a dog who was howling. What's the matter? Asked George. It's this bog, said the dog. I need to get across, but I keep getting stuck in the mud. I wish there was a safe, dry patch. Cheer up, said George, and he took off his smart new belt. It was squashing my tummy anyway, he said as he laid it down over the bog. It made an excellent path. Thank you, said the dog. Now the wind started to blow, but George didn't mind. He hopped on, still singing to himself. My
tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe